Viewers, thanks for joining us on Times Now. AI-171, a story of both sorrow and suspense, a story of tragedy, mystery and an urgent quest for answers. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB, has released its preliminary report on the catastrophic crash of Air India Flight AI-171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner that just fell from the sky 32 seconds after taking off from Ahmedabad. That was on June 12th. Viewers, this disaster claimed 260 lives, 241 passengers and crew, including former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, and 19 souls on the ground. Only one passenger survived, miraculously. The report, a chilling 15 pages of raw data and unsettling clues, throws up clues but nothing conclusive. In fact, it throws up more questions than it answers. Now imagine a state-of-the-art Dreamliner bound for London Gatwick roars down the runway. The wheels lift, the plane climbs 625 feet into the air, and then in a heartbeat, in a flash, it's all over. That's all that it took. The aircraft plummets nose up into a medical hostel complex nearby, engulfed in flames. Viewers, for weeks the world has been asking what went wrong. Today, the AAIB's preliminary findings pull back the curtain, or try to pull back the curtain. And what they reveal is as shocking as it is perplexing. Viewers, the report zeroes in on a heart-stopping detail. Both engines of the Dreamliner lost fuel supply mere seconds after takeoff. Yes, you heard that right. Both engines, starved of fuel, fell silent in mid-air. Cockpit audio recovered from the black box captures a moment between the pilots. One pilot asks, "Why did you cut off?" The other responds, "I did not." The fuel control switches, the report notes, had gone from run to cut off, one after the other. This revelation raises more questions than answers. The report also gives a clean sheet to Boeing and the engine manufacturer, GE. Let's quickly open this up to a panel of experts who will help us break this down. Captain Eshad Khalid, ex-airline captain, instructor, examiner, veteran IF pilot. Sarosh Damania is an aviation lawyer. Wing Commander K. Dinesh, crash investigation expert. Captain Saurabh Bhatnagar, former A320 pilot. And Dr. Anand Ranganathan needs no introduction. He joins the panel. Before I bring in the experts, Dr. Ranganathan, what do you make of, the things that you've read which are part of the report?
Good morning, Pranesh, and good morning to my fellow panelists. I must clarify, as a layman, because there are all the other, my fellow co-panelists are experts here, but I want to put my view as an Indian. And I am as shocked as you are by the startling revelations that have come out from this preliminary report, it has to be said. So just to get the facts right as a layman, there were, of course, two pilots there, and one pilot asked the other, "Why did you switch from run to cutoff?" Now, as the experts will tell you, and whatever little I've gleaned from the knowledge in the last 1 hour, this cannot happen automatically. This has to be done manually, because there is a protective shield on those switches, and it has to be manually conducted. So somebody would have had to manually turn the switch from run, which was basically making the engines run and the fuel supply to the engines, to cut off. Now, I don't know which pilot, the voice can tell you which pilot, was it the senior pilot that had 16,000 hours of flight, or was it the junior pilot that asked the question? That is also very important. The other important aspect of the whole thing is that it took a second between the two switches to be converted from run to cutoff. And then when the crash investigators found out post the crash that the switches were turned back again to run, but of course it was too late. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, even the recorder confirms this, that the switches were then very quickly turned back to run, and one of the engines was able to restart, but the other wasn't, leading to the catastrophic crash. So
Right.
it's all absolute devastating news, and one has to get to the bottom of this, that if this cannot happen automatically, then why did it happen at all? Was it manually that was conducted? Which
Right.
pilot said that why did you do it? And finally, if the manufacturers have been given a clean chit, then I'm afraid the finger only points to the other direction, and the final report will tell us what exactly happened.
I don't know, which is why I started with you and not with the experts, because when I saw the report, and you know, some of us were up all night because this came in the dead of the night, as you know, many are calling, are saying this on social media. So there are more questions than answers in this report. Now I understand there are people who will say that, look, the purpose of the AAIB is not to give you, you know, everything. It is only a preliminary report. So let's bring in our...
If I may just add just one sentence, that I think back in 2018, the FAA had flagged something like this happening. There was some problem with switches, and it wasn't considered as something that has to be rectified immediately. But I think Air India ignored that.
Wing Commander Dinesh, morning, sir. What do you make of this prelim report? Help our viewers understand.
Okay. So first of all, my compliments to AIB for bringing out such a detailed report. We see a lot of factual information in the report, which is normally not seen in a crash investigation preliminary report. So I think they understood the importance of the public to know what really happened on the flight. Now, there are three aspects to any crash investigation, and whatever I'm saying is in a personal capacity as a crash investigator. Of course, it is not the AIB's official version. So there are always three basic questions in any crash investigation, which is known as the what, why, and how. So what AIB has brought out to us is the what happened. That question they have answered. So if you go into the details, I will run you through for about 10 odd sentences. The flight was very normal. The safety speed of the aircraft was about 162 knots, whereas this aircraft gained about 188 knots, which means the aircraft and the engines were perfectly performing well until the incident of the switch being switch going down. I would not say being put down. The switch going down from on to off position came. Okay, so after that, whatever followed, that the aircraft came down and glided and fell on the building is very normal thing to happen when you have lost complete thrust on the engine. So this report also puts to rest all the speculations that were in the media for last about 30 days about flaps and about the rat and all that stuff. So we are now focusing entirely on a question, that is what caused the switch to go from the on position to the off position. So there are only 5 things that you can think of. A software glitch. B, a hardware glitch. C, pilot 1. D, pilot 2. And third is an external intruder. So our report actually stops short of saying, it gives a great amount of detail about what happened in the cockpit, but like I would say a professional report, it stops short of saying who out of the 4, I would count out the 5th one, someone intruding, because the report has not mentioned that. So who out of the 4 caused the aircraft fuel to shut off?
Right.
And that's very important, because I think typically what happens in a crash investigation is, once the what is out, the why and how will be looking into those aspects. I'm sure the investigators will first rule out Boeing's deficiency, if any, and then come on to the next part of the chapter, that is...
But Wing Commander Dinesh, correct me if I am wrong, people who are saying that this preliminary report gives a clean sheet to Boeing and GE, do you concur with that? Is this a clean sheet or is it not?
No, it's not a clean chit. Like I said, if you look at the report carefully, it stops short of saying who out of the two are to be accounted for. Like it's the pilots, because if you see, there is a mention of a sentence. Why did you put it off? So that means the switch indeed went off. Okay, but if you notice one more thing, the investigators have not raised an alarm after finding out, probably if they know that the software or it's a hardware glitch. This itself indicates that they are still in the process of finding out whether it is a software or hardware glitch or it's the pilot this thing. If you ask me as an investigator, if even I had a hunch that it is the software or the hardware that has caused the problem and I do not have an answer for that as an investigator, the first thing I would do is to dish out a letter to all the concerned people and say, please ground the Dreamliner fleet till we find out why this software hardware glitch happened.
There you go. That says a lot.
Answer and the corrections.
That says a lot. Wing Commander K.
Yes.
Dinesh is now really helping us understand what the prelim findings imply. Captain Bhatnagar, what is your reading of this, sir?
Hi Pranesh, morning. I first of all agree with you that this report throws more question than answers, and at some aspects I will disagree with Wing Commander Dinesh regarding, it gives a very good. I'm just saying that it is very sketchy as of now. They just given the AFR recordings, and it is very. If you go into the detail of the timelines, it is very, very, you cannot manually in 1 second switch off both engines. Yes, they have said that it is fuel control switch is commanded off and then on. The only situation you do both fuel switch cutoff switches off and on is recycling when you have a dual engine failure. There is nothing mentioned about engine failure. That's what is saying. No, it is not giving clean chit, but yet it is not said that, and then when you are recycling, when you command it off, on after that, there is a gap of 4 seconds between engine number 1 switch and engine number 2 switch. So that is exactly it. You cannot in 1 second, it's a spring guarded switch. You have to lift it, you have to get it back, and then it is a detent. Doesn't take 1 second for both. It takes at least 3 to 4 seconds if you want to switch on. The third thing, it happened 3 seconds or 4 seconds after takeoff. At that point of time, pilot flying is looking out, pilot monitoring is looking inside, and the report says that co-pilot or the right seat pilot, the first officer, was the pilot flying. That means the PIC hand must be on the thrust levers at the time of P1. Both he also lifts its
right.
He lifts at his hand. So how it can be commanded off? No pilot will do it manually at that point of time. It will only happen starting that the first effect, the pilot will ask, why did it? Because they are not looking inside. The moment they see engines pulling down, the noise will tell immediately for an experienced pilot that both engines pulling down, the noise will tell immediately, and the first reaction will be both engines mean the fuel cutoff all.
But Captain Bhatnagar, Captain Saurabh Bhatnagar, you are a pilot. Can you tell us, Wing Commander Dinesh was saying, I don't know whether this is software problem, hardware problem or mechanical problem. Now, the reports, some of the commentary that I've consumed on social media, it suggests that it could also be an electrical problem. But because I don't know, I'm asking you, is it possible that while you are in the cockpit, this switch suddenly, goes from one mode to the other?
No, not at all. Now the thing is, the report is very clearly saying, that the fuel control switch transition, that means the switch has been transited, not the electrical malfunction or not the fuel shut-off valve. Yes, it's an electrical. It's just the moment to transit, move the switch, that is the time when the signal goes to fuel shut-off valve and the fuel shut-off valve is open or closed. It's generally not touched in the flight. You open it when you start the engine and you switch off when you are parking, and thereafter the fuel shut-off switches are switched off, lifted up from the detent, brought it and bring it back. So it cannot happen on its own.
Okay. It can't happen on its own. Mr. Damania, I'll bring you in, but just a moment. Please bear with me. Wing Commander Dinesh, let me pull up an image of this, fuel switch control. We have a still image. This is representative picture of how this looked, so that when you are explaining, our viewers know exactly what we are talking about. There you go. This is the fuel control switch, viewers. Wing Commander Dinesh, tell us more about this.
So this switch is just below the throttle quadrant. That is the two engine throttles that the pilot operates. And this switch cannot be just flicked to the off position. You have to lift it. It has to be a deliberate effort, and it has to be even more than deliberate because the location of the switch is such that it doesn't interfere with any other switches. So when a pilot is flying, if the switch has to go down because of the pilot action, then the pilot has to deliberately bring his hands from wherever away it is all the way to the switch and operate it. So if you want to operate the switch, you have to lift it, you have to put it in the other position. And we should also take into account one more thing. It's not one switch that has got operated, it's two switches. So two switches cannot get operated inadvertently just like that. As such, it cannot get inadvertently operated. So this indicates that the switch has moved not by mistake, it has moved by some action. Now that is where I said, I again repeat, was it a mechanical failure? Very unlikely. We call it hardware failure. Very unlikely. A software failure. I have an answer to that also. Normally any software failure will affect both the switches at the same time. You know, it's like power going off in your house, all the lights go off together. Now this difference of 1 second or whatever is a part of the 1 second explains that probably is not really a software effect. And now the next thing comes, the question comes, why did the pilot make that statement? Okay, now we as people, public or investigators out of the AAIB are not here to speculate. That is where I said we have the what to what happened. Now we need to wait for the investigators to actually deep dive into this subject, and trust me, they will find out which out of the four are the reason, and this will come out in the final report. There is no
what four are you referring to, Wing Commander Dinesh? What four are you referring to for viewers who are joining the broadcast?
Yeah, I am referring to see, the question is the switch operated, how did it go from on to off? Okay, so there are four ways that it can go. A, there can be a software glitch and the software turns the switch off, because this aircraft is highly computerized. So that can happen. And in that context, if you remember, there is a bulletin which was issued in 2018 for some sort of a snag connected with the switch, and which we came to know now through this report that Air India has not implemented that bulletin. And the answer they gave probably to the AIB is that it was an advisory and not required to do. So there is one particular activity which the Air India has not done, and had they done it, we could have ruled out that also. But notwithstanding that, I am talking about software switching off the switch. Okay, and it could be a soft switch off also. That means the system switched off, but the switch did not go up. But here that is not the case. Here the switches have gone up, if you notice. Okay, gone down. So it has been put to off position. So that has to
and
be.
Let me ask you one question. This is out of sheer curiosity. You know, you can call the question silly, or people who understand more about it can, say it's a silly question. Can this alteration of the switch not happen after impact because of the crash?
No, not at all. Because simple reason is this aircraft has got a very highly advanced DFDR. In fact, there are two of them, and they have downloaded one, and they have given a statement that the download was very good. That means they got good quality data. So if the FDR says that this switch has operated, that means the switch has operated. And it's not like that. The investigators take one clue and then they corroborate it with all other clues that are there. The CVR recording, the status of the engine when it was lying there.
Right.
The status of the switch, like you have seen. So they corroborate all these things together and validate the information, and then only they put it. So in this context, I must make one statement. If you are wondering why the AAIB has not come out with all such details, like Captain Saurabh said, it's sketchy. The reason is, right now they have a lot of work to do to corroborate all the information, validate it, and then only they can come and say to the public, yes, it is A,
which is why this is called a preliminary report. You're right. Mr. Damania, good morning. You've been hearing this analysis intently. What is your take?
See, understanding this, AIBA has come up with the report within a period of a month, which is mandatory required as per law, as per international standards. So they didn't have more time to maybe put in more analysis or more detailed thing. But what we basically see from the report here is now there are fingers being pointed towards the pilots because there is more discretion about the pilot. There is discussion between the pilot mentioning that the switch was turned off. There was a dispute between the two pilots, one saying that I did not do it, the other is saying that you must have done it. So, the fingers are being pointed at the pilot. Of course, there is no about as far as the technicalities regarding the software and hardware is concerned, the report is pretty silent on the aspect that what are they analyzing or what are they going to analyze or what has been looked at. There is no advisory come out. At least basic advisory, what should have come out is that recommendation which the FAA had made earlier regarding the switchgear should be immediately implemented by all airlines. At least that basic thing should have been done, which was not done in the past, which was advisory. It should have been treated as a mandate, and at least now they should have implemented it as a mandate, but they have not done that also. So they have been very sketchy about it. The report doesn't go into the engineering or doesn't go into the aircrafts, that is Boeing's accountability on it. So from the preliminary report, what has been seen, it is more focused towards the pilots than towards the engineering or the aircraft manufacturer. So that is of course a question mark, but it is a preliminary report. So we have to wait for the final outcome.
Commander Dinesh has something to say, then I'm bringing in Dr. Ranganathan.
Yeah. So actually, let's have the trust that this preliminary report is good enough. I'll tell you the reason. If you notice, these people did not get 30 days to make this report. The flight data recorder was actually downloaded only on the 26th. And if you know the reason why it was downloaded on the 26th, because they waited for the golden chases or what is known as the OEM's one sample equipment to come from US. So from the day of accident till 24th, this was a null and void for them. So their actual investigation, when I say investigation means because we are relying on the FDR quite a bit, so that started only on the 26th. So that is one reason why probably is this much, and I would still say that preliminary reports are always only this sketchy. In fact, most preliminary reports that I have seen are always 2 pages in which most of the first 2 pages is the data, and only the last sentence says 1 or 2 sentences. This is a very, very detailed report, and trust that the pilots the AAIB will eventually find out that what was like Mr. Damania said, the technical part of it. That's what they are waiting for. They will do the technical analysis and figure out.
Which is why, viewers, it's important that we should not jump the gun. But I'm sorry, there are, publications, propaganda machinery out there. That there is an attempt now, concerted, it seems on the face of it, who are trying to muddy the waters. Dr. Ranganathan.
Yeah, I think in the interest of clarity, of course, I speak as a layman. Let me now read verbatim, and it will take a couple of minutes, but it's very crucial, Pranesh, and thank you for coming with this debate so early on. I want to read verbatim from the FAA 2018 report. So here goes. The Special Airworthiness Information Bulletin SAIB is to advise registered owners and operators of the Boeing company models of the disengagement of the fuel control switch locking feature. Now it goes on to say the fuel control switch has a locking feature to prevent inadvertent operation that could result in unintended switch movement between the fuel supply and fuel cutoff positions. In order to move the switch from one position to the other, under the condition where the locking feature is engaged, it is necessary for the pilot to lift the switch up while transitioning the switch position. If the locking feature is disengaged, the switch can be moved between the 2 positions without lifting the switch during transition, and the switch would be exposed to the potential of inadvertent operation. Inadvertent operation of the switch could result in an unintended consequence such as an in-flight engine shutdown. Boeing informed the FAA that the fuel control switch design, including the locking feature, is similar on various Boeing airplane models. The table below, and it goes on table, but here is the crucial part, recommendation. Verbatim. The FAA recommends that all owners and operators of the affected airplanes incorporate the following actions at the earliest opportunity. Number 1, inspect the locking feature of the fuel control switch to ensure its engagement. While the airplane is on the ground, check whether the fuel control switch can be moved between the two positions without lifting up the switch. If the switch can be moved without lifting it up, the locking feature has been disengaged and the switch should be replaced at the earliest opportunity. 2. For the Boeing models, etc., it gives the thing, and Boeing model 737, 8 and 9 airplanes delivered with fuel control switch having PN 766-86133D, replace the fuel control switch with a switch having PN 766-80614, which includes an improved locking feature. We request that owners and operators report any failure of the locking feature of the fuel control switch to Boeing. See contact information provided. The report should include the date the failure occurred, the fuel control switch P by N, airplane model, airplane serial number. This is what the AAIB report said in 2018. Now, were these recommendations followed to the T immediately? If not, why not is the question.
Wing Commander Dinesh.
Thank you, Dr. Ranganathan, for bringing out verbatim. So that's the point I mentioned. If this is found that this activity was not done on this aircraft and the switches were the old with a defect, then we know the answer. Okay, that's the point I made a mention, that eventually the AIB will figure out, and if that is the answer, then we know who's to be held, the Air India. Okay, so it's not a Boeing problem then. It's an Air India issue. But however, if the switches were already, we know for sure that the switches were not checked because it is there in the preliminary report. Okay. So all these details will be gone into very thoroughly, and the AIB will rule out of all these options that I said, and they will come out with the actual answer. And of course, there'll be a fix to whatever has gone wrong after that. Good, you brought out this point. This is a very, very pertinent point, and I also said in my opening statement that AAIB has very boldly brought out this statement that Air India has not done the service bulletin of 2018. Therefore, there is an aspersion that can be cast on Air India, and unless the AIB says, we cannot say whether that was the reason for the crash or not. Let's wait.
Okay, we'll have to take a short break.